few minutes early because I want to make sure that everything is up and running. I'm using a new live stream format, one that's supposed to work very, very well. So we will see what happens here. I'm thinking, yeah, this is just going to be PDF. It's not going to have my transitions, but that works. That works. So we will jump into that here in a little bit. I'm drinking lemongrass. Hold on. Caffeine free, Meyer lemon, a fresh, sunny burst of sweet lemon that will delight your senses. So today's sponsor, no, I'm just joking. So I just want to make sure everybody can hear me okay. I'm going to jump on to the Facebook page on my phone, and we're going to check and see if the live stream is going there. It'll be on Thompson Baptist Church. Here we go. And I'm going to turn up the volume on my phone. Okay, I can hear it. All right. And then I think I'll also be able to keep an eye on the comments on this one as well. So just a little early. Okay, comments, tests, comment. Okay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And looks like I've got closed captions as well. Awesome. Thank you, Facebook. Good deal. And I am assuming that we're good on YouTube as well because it shows we're on YouTube also. Okay. So let's see here. All right, shows we're live. This is pretty cool. Cool new format here. I'll have to see if it holds up when we start our slideshow, but I think it will. Okay, let's see. Shows we've got a number of folks joining us. I don't want to count on the visitor tracker, viewer tracker on here because sometimes it's simply not accurate. It'll say we've got one person watching and a whole bunch of people are watching, or it'll say we've got like a plethora of people watching and maybe there's one watching. I'm not sure what goes on with that. If I was smarter, I might know. Up the volume more, please. Okay, excellent. Thank you. How's this? No, let me, there is a little slider. All right, so if that's good, let me know. Let's see. And I can only go so loud before the sound quality will begin to deteriorate. And so if it needs to be a little louder than this, crank up the old phone. Bluetooth speakers, I know that sounds a little silly, but Bluetooth speakers, you can get them online for like $10 now. I was actually going to keep an eye out for one for you and Steve, Gloria, because I know that that would be a good thing. Steve was mentioning to me that you might want one of those. I think I might have an extra one kicking around. But you can hook up your phone via Bluetooth to a speaker and get it to work that way. Today is not Ugly Sweater Day. I am just out of wardrobe options. That's a good thing as I'm losing weight. So have pity on me. Have compassion on me. I don't know how long to steep this. Oh, I never got to read to you the ingredients. You say, are you reading ingredients on a live stream? Yes, I'm waiting for people to jump in. It's only 10:01. People are still figuring this out. I'm not streaming on my personal page, just on the church page on Facebook and church page on YouTube. Ingredients: rose hips, lemongrass, orange peel, hibiscus, citric acid, Meyer lemon oil, and safflower. Safflower. Okay, safflower, but not saffron. If it said saffron, I'd be like, but Meyer lemon oil and safflower. Yeah. All right, I'm going to taste it here in a second. I am going to scoot a little closer to the microphone, and I'll speak a little bit louder. I just don't want to overpower, everybody. So it is possible, though. I suppose if you wanted to, you could turn your volume down a little bit more, but you can only turn it up so much for those who are hard of hearing or have a hard time hearing in their phone speaker. So I'm going to have this cranked up. It is 10:02. I was going to wait till about 10:05 to get started, just because I want to give folks plenty of time to jump in. So leave stuff in the comments. I wish we could all chat like in a Zoom, but that would become overwhelming in its own way. So I'm going to taste my Meyer lemon tea. I'm drinking tea because all the sickness going around and everything like that. I am maybe feeling a little bit of that. I'm not sure. I'm wondering if the sore throat is just from sleeping with my mouth open in a cooler room. Could be it. Maybe I'm just in denial. I'm the world's worst coffee and tea drinker. It has to be so cool before I can drink it. Steve is the champion coffee drinker. He gets it fresh out of a burning plate of magma and then puts it in the microwave for another minute before he can drink it. I would no longer have a tongue or taste buds if that was the case. There's no smart aleck comments, so I don't think Kevin's on yet. I don't know for sure if he is, but I want him to be on. I want everybody to be on. My viewer went up to just 5 instead of 4. And again, I'm trying not to count on the viewership number thing because I don't think it's accurate. I keep doing this with my tea bag. I think that's what you're supposed to do to look sophisticated, to get it to steep efficiently. Good morning to you, Laura. Good morning, Scott. Scott's been retired for about a year now. I read that in a Facebook comment today. Happy retirement. I will join you in 30 years. I'll be there too. I have no desire right now to be retired, so that's good. If I had a desire to be retired at 35, that might mean contentment issues. I'm not sure. Yeah, no, too hot. It's okay. It's okay. Our new Topsom Baptist Church mugs. Yes. All right, it's 10:04. We're going to get started here with the lesson in just another minute or so. Yep. Good morning, Joel from the Philippines. Awesome. Thanks for joining us this morning. Okay, Ron and Sheila, good morning to both of you. I just wish we were in person. I really do, but I am so thankful for this technology that's able to help us out. Good. I am going to do one thing before I get started. I'm going to jump over here and I'm going to share this video on my profile, particularly because if I understand it correctly, that's how a number of people find the Topsom Baptist Church live stream. So, to my feed. Okay, donezo. All right, let's jump in. It's 10:05 as planned. Welcome, one and all, to the Topsom Baptist Church live stream. I do want to make sure my slides are showing up well. I apologize for wanting to kind of watch at the same time. I'm just doing this to make sure everything is working well. Okay, looks like it's working great. Excellent. Okay, so I just want to remind you of our theme this coming year, and really it's going to be a perpetual theme that I believe that the church, especially in the West, needs to embrace in a very real way. My church, my responsibility. My church, my responsibility. This is a very, very, very important facet to church life that I think is, in one way, being embraced in the West, in America, etc., and rejected, forgotten by the West. By that, I mean that there's a number of churches that are becoming kind of more of a performance-oriented. You show up, you get to sing and worship, you drop your tithes in the box, and you go home and you let them put on the show, right? And that's really not at all what the church was ever supposed to be. You guys know this. That is how concerts and stuff are supposed to be, and that is so cool when that format is followed for those particular things, performance-oriented events, concerts, even special meetings at church is fine, but the regular day-to-day of the church ought to be embraced by everyone, plugging in, chipping in. It is not meant to be a performance-oriented service, as it were, but rather an assembly, a meeting, a congregation, everybody coming together for a common purpose. And Acts chapter 2 will tell you exactly what that purpose is. Sound is crackled. All right then. Let's do this. let's do this. I'm going to try something. You say, don't do anything in the middle of it. I just hold on. I'm going to try something. All right. Oh, I had my volume on. All right. How is that? Is the sound better? I'm waiting for folks to let me know if the sound is better. If it's worse, I can go back to my podcasting mic. I imagine it won't be as bass heavy, but I do think it might be a little bit louder. Okay, Kev says it's better. So I'm going to leave it just like that, and I'll pretend it's been that way the whole time. No. Okay, so yes, churches, my church, my responsibility. All right, moving right along from there. Today, Kevin said perfect, not just good, perfect. Okay, good. All right, so lesson learned. We won't use the podcast mic. We'll use the built-in microphone for the Mac there. So awesome. Thanks for your patience. I'm really glad that that's better for everybody. Amber says so much better. Ron says yes, better. Gloria says yes, I think great. All right. Well, this thing can just. No, I'm just joking. I wouldn't throw that. All right. So. Yes, surprisingly spiritual disciplines. I want to talk to you this morning about surprisingly spiritual disciplines. What do you mean by that, Britt? I'm glad you asked. When we think of spiritual disciplines, we probably think of the most obvious ones drilled into us by our modern Western evangelical scene. Bible reading, prayer, fasting, going to church, the big ones, right? When someone says spiritual disciplines, I tend to imagine in my mind a group of like monks living in a monastery at the top of a mountain. And when you show up, they've taken a vow of silence. And, it's just when I think of spiritual disciplines, I tend to think of something that doesn't exist in the everyday, but something that is that we seek to attain, that really spiritual Christians do. That if you're really walking with God, these are the things you're going to embrace. And so when I think of spiritual disciplines, I think of like the picture of the guy. I don't even know if I have it in my office. I would show you if I did. I think I may have taken it to the house. But there's that picture of a guy who's like praying over his loaf of bread, and it's a really cool picture, and I absolutely love it. But I think that guy is like the master of spiritual discipline. He's learned to live without. It's a very asceticism. It's a very ascetic concept. Is he has one change of clothes. He gives 90% of his money to the church, and just prays 17 hours out of 24 every day. And you get the idea, right? I think I've overkilled that point. But spiritual disciplines is a phrase that I think conjures something that's detached from most of us. However, it might surprise you to learn that some of what we esteem as the highest spiritual disciplines today aren't anywhere near the level of importance or significance of the spiritual disciplines I'm going to teach about today. In fact, the Bible reveals a whole matrix of spiritual disciplines, the priority and significance of which might surprise us. So I want to take a look at some of these with you this morning. Friendship is actually a spiritual discipline, and it's called a discipline because it's hard. Right? It actually takes effort. It's actually really hard to be a Christ-like friend, someone who forgives, entrusts, confronts, corrects, comforts, invests time in others who may never be able or willing to do the same. Drop in the comments if you want to about this. Was actually much more tailored to like a Sunday school hour where we're like, hey, what are some spiritual disciplines? We don't have that this morning, but we do have the comment section. A friend, a biblical Christ-like friend. What are some of the character traits that are embraced in biblical Christ-like friendship? I will let you know that my screen froze on my end, but I think I'm still going on the live stream. If I'm not, somebody text me, but I think I am. Okay. It might just be like a bad lag. I'm not sure. I am not the important thing. So long as the slides are showing up, I'm a happy camper. All right. So friendship is a spiritual discipline. Consider this. It is impossible to, I like that, Micah. Loyalty. It is impossible to be a biblical Christ-like friend without love. So my question is, what is love to you? True love, Christ-like love. I submit that there is no real friendship without real love. Praying for one another, that's another huge aspect of friendship. Someone says, oh yeah, I'm a friend to this person. What does that mean? You're friendly toward them and they're friendly toward you. There is a trend going on today, and it's not a bad trend necessarily, but I think it falls short. It's called like be a kind human or be kind to one another. And I see it on bumper stickers and flyers and that. Awesome. I'm really glad. That's very cool. I'm much happier that it says that than be terrible to each other. Okay. But somebody recently wrote about that, and it said it falls short because it's probably more accurate to say love one another, right? Because being a true friend, even when that friendship becomes difficult, requires actual love. Someone says the video's been very jerky the whole time, but it's fine as long as the sound isn't. That's great. I'm very content with that. Again, the slides are what we're really focusing on. So, no real friendship without real love. That's a spiritual discipline. Also, temperance. This has to do with being tempered. An untempered sword will fall to one of two extremes, too pliable or too brittle. In one sense, temperance actually means balance and restraint. If you think about it, I heard this, and I've heard this a little bit lately, is somebody might say, well, balance is just kind of an excuse to not take a position on something, right? People who preach balance usually don't take a strong stance on the issues. I can see where that's a possibility for some, not for this guy. I absolutely affirm the death, burial, resurrection, and external witness of Jesus Christ without hesitation, right? All of the orthodox biblical doctrines of the faith, I accept them completely. Being balanced doesn't mean not planting your flag somewhere. It just means planting your flag on Jesus and not on cultural issues. You see, or creeds and theological positions that were established 1,500 years after the cross. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's room for balance and temperance in Christianity without that chipping away at knowing what you believe and why, right? So temperance. It has to do with balance, with being properly, tempered. One of the most virtuous things a Christian can do is to slow down, examine everything, be circumspect, and calm. Weigh things out. Again, we see this principle listed in Proverbs repeatedly. It's a vanishing virtue. And by the way, I didn't have scripture here. I was going to kind of go to some of these scriptures and ask for scriptures from the crowd. Again, didn't happen. That's totally fine. But maybe in the comments, you can think of scriptures that go with these. Obviously, we can think of the one where it says, for Paul is telling the church to be circumspect, to walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. Temperance, of course, you might remember that word from the fruit of the Spirit, but don't mention that yet. That's my big reveal here in a few minutes. So weigh things out. We do see the principle listed in Proverbs repeatedly, and I do concur that it's a vanishing virtue. I think if you turn on the news, turn on any sort of entertainment program on television, I'm not against it, but you can see it all through. It's woven into our society more than ever. Temperance doesn't exist. I'm not afraid of cancel culture in that it provides accountability. I think that's a good part of it, but I think a bad part of it is it's not a tempered approach. Somebody did something bad 20 years ago and you're going to cancel them now. Dude, what if you got the magnifying glass, the spotlight on you for what you said and did 20 years ago? It's all just a bunch of hypocrisy. That's all it is. But I digress. Temperance. It is a virtue. It is a spiritual discipline to be tempered. You say, but I thought spiritual disciplines were like prayer and Bible reading and fasting. Okay, nobody read their Bibles for like the first, 1,000 years of church history. I know that's an exaggeration, and I know we have the Latin Vulgate. I understand that's a promise. I do. But honestly, in the early days of Christianity, and certainly all throughout the precursor to Christianity, Judaism, very few people had the opportunity to sit down and just say, I'm going to read my personal devotion today. No, you went to the temple or the synagogue, you listened to the scriptures, and then you memorized them, you lived them, you meditated them. Got a note that says having audio issues. If you're listening to the beginning of the broadcast, you will experience audio issues. I switched audio source a couple minutes into it, so that should be better for you. And by saying this now, I realize that, you know what? Now someone else says they're having audio issues. It is what it is. I'm going to keep going. Bummer. That's okay. It says snappy again. Well, Kevin, I think you're being snappy again. All right. We are going to try to persevere. I'm truly sorry about any sort of performance issues. Man, I wish there was something I could do. Wow, with all my heart, I sure do. But that's the way it is. We will come up with, Kev says, go for it, just teach. Please hang in there with me, Saints. Sorry about the crackling sound. All right, let's keep going. Temperance plays out in many arenas of our lives. How we respond to others, how we work, how we eat, how we sleep, how we handle stress, how we confront others, how we receive correction. Temperance. Somebody said something that really ticks you off. How about you slow down and be temperate in how you respond? Somebody says something that rubbed you the wrong way, or best of all, pastor said something while preaching that you just know was aimed at you. Number one, it was. No, I'm just joking. Come on. The real answer is maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Obviously, I don't aim things directly at people in the church, but the Holy Spirit certainly has a way of steering things toward us, I'm sure. But there's no reason to get bent out of shape. Honestly, guys, there's zero reason to get bent out of shape at like literally anything except injustice. Seriously. Sin is what we should get bent out of shape at, not each other. I don't know why that's, anyway. That's temperance. Humility. Remember that you're brilliant and that no one else has the knowledge that you have. Assume motives and never budge on your first conclusion. Also, only your opinions and studies are right. Wait. No. It's actually the opposite. I am increasingly persuaded that one of the greatest hindrances to humility isn't just general pride. It's actually fear. Fear of being incorrect, fear of losing control, etc. Fear. I don't want to expound on that. I want to get to the bulk of the lesson. So I'm inclined to ask the following question. Is it possible you're wrong on some things? Most would say yes. Yeah, it's possible I'm wrong on something. Then I have to follow up with, is it possible to be wrong about the things you're sure you're not wrong about? Well, no, it's not possible on those things. Why not? Well, I've done my research. Other people haven't? You know what I mean? Well, I know about this theological issue pretty well. I've read a bunch of people who agree with me. You get the idea. Humility, well, let me just read the next slide. Humility is bound to the very nature of Christ. If anybody was right on everything, I'd say it was Jesus. So where can humility be found in your life? Are you willing to be wrong? Are you willing to learn? That's not weakness. That's meekness. Big difference. So, next one, peacefulness. Being peaceful is also a Christ-like attribute. He was known as the Prince of Peace. He was peaceful in his manner, his methods, and his mission to create peace between us and God. Jesus was peaceful. He was peaceful. Again, what got Jesus bent out of shape? Two things we read in the scripture that really got Jesus bent out of shape. One, death. If you read John 11, there's some upsetness going on there. And then two, hypocrisy, the Pharisees, injustice. They were ripping people off. They were hurting others, and they were doing it in the name of God. That messed Jesus up, and it should mess us up too. But again, each other? We should be peaceful toward each other. Yeah, but what if that person's acting bad? Okay. That doesn't change the rules of the game. We're to be peaceful no matter what. Yeah, but this person said something that was really wrong. Oh, you know what? I didn't know that. So feel free to go ahead and explode on them. No, be peaceful. Be peaceful. Love each other. Be gentle. In fact, question. Would you describe yourself as a peaceful person? That's pretty good tea. Would you describe yourself as a peaceful person? Would your spouse, coworkers, pastors, and other friends agree? Do you think it is important to be peaceful? How important is it? I used to describe myself as a peaceful person, and I was the most quarrelsome, quibbling person there was. Because everyone else was wrong, and I was always right. And here's the worst part about it. When you are always right and everyone else is always wrong, it is veritably impossible to be a peaceful person. Facts. Be peaceful. Peaceful. In fact, I will say this. I think even society has a handle on this. It is those who have a soft answer that turn away wrath that I typically feel like are more confident in their position. The ones who feel like they got to get all riled up and red in the face and angry and start whapping people around, like those are the people who I don't feel are very confident in their position. Like, be peaceful, be a lover of peace. And again, would people who know you describe you as a peaceful person? Some might say, well, most of the time, but when you fly off the handle, you fly off the handle. That's not good. We should be peaceful and tempered people. Again, we're talking about surprisingly spiritual disciplines. These are not just character traits or quirks in personalities. These are spiritual disciplines. And I submit to you that they're radically more important than any of the other spiritual disciplines that we've, concocted and imposed upon Christianity in the last few years. Moving right along. Wait a minute. There's a theme here. These are the fruits of the Spirit. If you picked up on a theme, great. What I'm listing are generally referred to as the fruits of the Spirit. They're far more important than all of our novel marks of spirituality and spiritual discipline. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, meekness, temperance, all that. These aren't add-ons to the important one. Well, first you got to get these things in order, and then if you have enough room left over in your spiritual life, go ahead and embrace the fruits of the Spirit. No, they come before everything. The fruits of the Spirit come before everything. They are the important ones. They're the pinnacle of Christianity. How should you describe a Christian? Well, when I go out to eat, I treat the waiter or waitress like trash because they're open on Sundays. I mean, I'm eating there on Sundays, but they shouldn't be open on Sundays. And then I leave a gospel tract. I give like a 4% tip because they're open on Sundays. And they frowned at me the whole time. All I did was stand up and pray loudly for 18 minutes, and then I treated them like trash. And they frowned at me, and so they don't deserve a tip. But I left a gospel tract, and that is a spiritual discipline. Evangelism, brother. Amen. You get the idea. It's a terribly goofy caricature. But some of us, I certainly did, and I probably still do in some areas of life, have it so backwards that it's about some of these particular things we do. Some of the particular words we say, the way we dress, the places we go, the places we won't go, the bus routes we drive. And we have made that the metric of spiritual discipline, whereas in reality, we are bypassing love, joy, peace, gentleness, goodness, the actual outpouring of the Spirit in our daily lives as we interact with humanity, all in the name of, well, we just want to be like Jesus. Listen to me, you can't be like Jesus if you don't have the fruits of the Spirit. But I told somebody about Jesus. It's like what Paul said. If you do all this and you don't have love, you become as a bunch of white noise, like clanging cymbals, sounding brass, tinkling cymbals. You become white noise. That's what the Bible says. That's literally the Bible on it. So consider this. If you're right on everything, or you think you are because you're absolutely not right on everything, no one is except Kevin. But you don't have love or gentleness or humility, you're wrong. You're wrong. You might not like something that somebody else is doing. Fair enough. You might not like some of the things I'm doing. You might not like my amazing shirt this morning. It's white, blue flowers. No, what did I say? White with blue flowers? Pray for me. I'm going colorblind. It's green with blue flowers, and it's the most pleasant green you ever did lay your eyes on. You might not like my shirt. Great. I don't know why I brought that up. But if you don't have love, joy, peace, gentleness, goodness, you might want to correct something that I do. You might want to say, hey, I don't think you should be going here. Hey, I don't think this was handled well. I want to share something with you, and I've said this a million times before, and I'm going to say it one more time because I think it bears repeating. The only correction that I have really, really, really benefited from are the ones when someone took the time to lovingly speak to me, to humbly approach me, to in temperance and meekness say, hey, Britt, this is where I think you did wrong. I'm not, oh, this is going to sound like I don't know how to say this, but I'm just saying, I have had no reason to reject any sort of counsel like that. And by God's grace, and I say that sincerely by God's grace, it is Him that works in me. I don't think I've ever once said, no, not listening to that. Because somebody loves me enough to come to me and say, hey, I love you. This is what I'm going to say. And even if I were to disagree, I would at least say, hey, thank you for coming to me and saying this. Thank you for loving me enough to correct me on this. Here's some biblical reasons why I disagree. Fine. But if somebody, I remember this time where somebody at a church that I ministered at as an associate pastor, he came up to me with tears in his eyes. He was much older than me, way wiser and smarter than me. He could have thrown the book at me. But he sat there with tears in his eyes across from my desk when he should have been in my seat and I should have been in his seat. He was that much wiser than me. And he said, this is the problem that I spotted when you were preaching. And he actually felt that I didn't handle the word of God with enough reverence. And I'm a funny guy, but sometimes that went a little bit too far. And he corrected me on that. And I'm so thankful that he did. And he did it weeping. I'll never forget the meekness and gentleness of that man. What happens when people confront you? What happens when how do you respond? When something rubs you the wrong way, when something really, really ticks you off, how are you going to be different than the world? How are the fruits of the Spirit going to bear themselves out in your life? Saints, we should be different. We should be different. Consider this. I'm not interested in the so-called spiritual disciplines of a person if they don't have the attributes of the fruits of the Spirit in place first. This should remind us of the religious rabble of Jesus' day, the Pharisees. The enemy, please think about this. The enemy wants us to embrace all sorts of standards, convictions, and preferences while bypassing the truest of spiritual disciplines, the fruits of the Spirit. This is the best way for the world to want to reject Christianity. Think about it. Think about it. That's been the defining characteristic of really ineffective worship of God, has been people who get on their pedestal or their high horse or whatever you call it, and look down on others for not sharing certain convictions or preferences while completely abdicating one by one the fruits of the Spirit. They are not loving. They are not friendly. They are not temperate. They are not gentle. They are not peaceful. They are not meek. They're just going to make sure that you understand why you're wrong and they're right, and how anybody who disagrees with it out of their mind. That is exactly what the enemy wants. And the world will and should reject a Christianity like that. Why should they reject a Christianity like it? Because that's not Christianity. It's not. In conclusion, it's only one slide. I think it's only one slide. It might be two. But it is conclusion. Reflecting on last week's lesson, the Christian life isn't defined by how much we can alienate ourselves from our culture. It's about how we can bear fruit like this from within it. A bad apple can corrupt a whole bunch, yes, but spiritual fruit can transform the larger whole too. Saints, what is stronger, light or darkness? If someone goes in with no light and they're surrounded by darkness, you better believe that darkness is going to encroach and encapsulate that person. Absolutely. That's what's called being of the world rather than just in the world. But if a person goes into the darkness with a big old mag light shining however many thousand lumens, darkness can't compete. Do we really believe that the spiritual darkness of the world is greater than the spiritual light? You say, oh, one bad apple rots the whole bunch. Yes, it's a true aphorism, but we're not just talking about a regular apple here. We're talking about spiritual fruit. And that has the ability to transform the rotten fruit around it. The problem is we have left the spiritual fruit behind and we've substituted our own form of rottenness and called it Christianity. You say, Pastor, you're kind of going off on this a lot. I know, you should have never let me teach Sunday school because now I can go off on this a lot. Facts, guys. Here's the facts. The fruits of the Spirit are not optional. They're not just things that one day we'll aspire to. These are core principles and characteristics of Christianity. Simple as that. And if we refuse to embrace these, we're never going to be effective Christian in our walk, in our witness, in any way. What does it mean to be true, honest? Philippians 4:8, true, honest, just, pure, lovely, good report, virtue, praise, same thing. Same exact thing. Think on these things. Church, I'm going to just give you an encouragement. Let's be really careful to avoid the temptation to interlope our cultural issues and cultural distinctions into spiritual disciplines. They may be connected, but the core will always be the same. In other words, please listen to this. Please listen to this. 1,000 years from now, should this world perpetuate as it is and churches are still growing, et cetera, 1,000 years from now, I won't recognize the cultural distinctions and standards of tomorrow's church. I won't. If I were a time traveler and I transported 1,000 years into the future, there are things I would not recognize about the future church. I would. Maybe even baptism and Lord's Supper would have taken on different forms. I don't know. But the one things that I should be able to see that are constant among Christians is the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy. Joy was massively important to the early church. Not that it meant being happy all the time. It meant having a quiet, settled resolve to push forward because of the promises of God. Joy, peace, long suffering. It's more than just patience. Long suffering means suffering long. I mean, putting up with people. You know, saints, here's the thought. Here's the thought, guys. Here's the thought. If we were to treat our church brothers and sisters like we're married to them, don't run with that too far. I'm just making a point here. And that divorce wasn't an option. And that just walking out wasn't an option. But you had to stay trapped in a room with them until you worked out your issue. I'm just saying, if we treated our church family like we really have made a covenant with each other, and we were determined to work out the differences. Oh, guys, come on. There'd be like virtually no drama in any church. But you look at the atmosphere today of church shopping and a church on every corner that people can just, come on. I'm determined to be the kind of church that encourages folks to just love each other, suffer long with each other, lovingly talk about issues that we might have with each other. Don't just bottle them in. Not healthy, not good. Bitterness. Bitterness is like drinking poison and waiting for your enemies to die. That's not effective. It doesn't do anything. Anyways, the fruits of the Spirit, they're not just optional add-ons. They are the spiritual disciplines. So I suppose it doesn't really matter if you've got all your preferences and convictions and standards all wrapped up in a nice bow you're walking on clouds, man. If you don't have the fruits of the Spirit, all your spiritual disciplines count for nothing. You say, Pastor, you preaching to some of us in the congregation? You feel like some of us are empty? Oh, saints, there's room for improvement in every single person, including me, especially me. Anyways, that was the lesson. Surprisingly, spiritual disciplines. You say, well, I remember. Oh, come on, guys. Seriously, think about this one lesson. You remember what the Pharisees said? Well, I tithe this much of my income, and I go to the temple this many times a day, and I do this and this. And Jesus was like, yeah, but you don't even support your parents in their old age. And they're probably like rifling through like their list of do's and don'ts, and they don't see that in there. No, because they overlooked it. In their effort to build these scaffolds of man's tradition, they overlooked the actual important stuff. And that's literally what Jesus talked about. Anyways, if this were more of a discussion format, I know that we'd have taken more time, like looking up scriptures and saying, yeah, this is what Jesus said. Of course, it's way more beneficial in person, but, and we wouldn't have audio issues in person or video issues in person. That's the way it is. But I'd encourage you, take the next few minutes to reflect on this. Kevin will be on at 11 o'clock or before. I'm not, probably a few minutes before, but please take the time to reflect on this. Surprisingly spiritual disciplines. They're surprising because they've been lost to time in a lot of cultures, and I think, unfortunately, including ours, in terms of being in the West. But they are spiritual disciplines, and that they are the foundation, the bedrock of what it means to live out the Christian life in our day, in any day. They're timeless. They're timeless. And the best part, they're accessible. Anybody can embrace all of these, no matter what your circumstances. Yep. All right. My church, my responsibility. That's our theme. Kev texted me, so I think that the lesson got through okay. I am so sorry about audio issues. My goodness, it kills me. But we will continue to work and refine our new live streaming format that obviously will work better once we've got it in the hardwire, for actual church services. But this is a little bit different. So, all right. I love you. Kev texted. He said, it'll be okay. Aw, thanks, Kev. I love you too, man. All right. He may choose to use Restream. He may choose just to use Facebook Live. I'm not sure. But please consider these things, saints. Okay. I love you. I miss you.
We are still planning to meet Wednesday. If you're healthy, come on out on Wednesday. We'd love to see you. And if that changes, I'll let everybody know. But as of right now, we're still planning on meeting Wednesday. We're just trying to let the tail end of this kind of die down. But again, if that changes, we'll be in touch. All right, Saints. We'll see you in a little bit.